Well, I actually wanted to get into some e-commerce business, and I looked at several businesses, and that's when I realized that most businesses and most sectors are already quite clustered with other e-commerce companies, and I've lost that advantage which I would have had. The only sector which I thought had an opportunity was the agriculture sector. The sector still hadn't been tapped, and that's why I wanted to get into it. Within the agriculture sector, specifically, I thought that the lands was a huge opportunity. Because if you look around you and look at buying an apartment or a house in almost any metro in this country, you will be able to really zero down on that in the 30 seconds or 90 seconds. If I want a place in Chennai, Bombay, Bangalore, in an apartment building or a colony, no questions asked, within a short period of time, I can know. However, if a buyer wants land in Sonipat to grow some crop, or grow strawberries in Mahabaleshwar, or mangoes in the middle of India, or whatever it might be, and he wants to enter that business, it is almost impossible for him to find out. It is impossible for an outside buyer, and it's also extremely difficult for a buyer who's living in the village to know which lands are available, because the information is not available. That's when I realized that we've really struck gold and hit a huge, huge opportunity. Today's scenario in a village is that a man wants to sell his land. He, at best, will tell a patwari, who is the revenue officer. He might tell his neighbors, he might tell his relatives. Very few people in his own village know that he wants to sell land. I am a farmer in Punjab, and I know that in my village, even though I know everybody in my village and vice versa, even I don't know which lands are for sale or which lands are for lease. And that's the opportunity. The opportunity is to get the lands, the agriculture lands of India on the cloud, so that sellers have a huge amount of buyers who are able to bid for the same piece of land, versus today's scenario where very few buyers actually know, therefore very few buyers bid for that land. So the seller gets a better price and the buyer gets a lot more opportunity. Well, I think this is one of the largest opportunities, one of the largest businesses of India. Imagine the lands of India on a cloud. Imagine a platform that is selling all the lands, agricultural lands of India. Even if 1% of land needs to be sold in a village, which it is, at least 1% of the land is transacted every single year. It's actually probably a little more. You're looking at about 3 crores to 20-25 crores per village of transaction value, which is huge. For our franchisee, the potential is equally big. Each franchisee has 20 villages under his territory. With 20 villages, he can transact land value of about 30 crores to maybe 200 crores a year, which is huge. It's a huge opportunity. Our franchisee has the potential of becoming one of the largest businessmen in his area. At a national level, I really can't even calculate. There are 6,45,000 villages in India. If each village transacts even 10 crores a year, the figure is so big that I'm not even able to calculate it. My calculator also runs out of space. I also believe that any idea that is disrupting the market, any idea that has the first mover's advantage will always win. So I believe, the market size is massive, massive. But at the same time, I also believe that we, being the first movers, will have a huge advantage. Our partners will have a huge advantage, and our franchisees will have a huge advantage. So Cloudfarms, the entire journey starts from the seller. A seller or somebody who wants to even lease his land. He makes his page, uploads information, gets his account, which is a very simple process. After that, he uploads the details of the land, such as what is the size of the land, what is the price that he wants, what is the soil, does the land have any fencing, is the land irrigated, does it have tube wells, and things like that, does it have a hutment. After all that is done, then he puts up the documents of the land, be it the revenue papers or any other relevant documents. Once that is done, the seller then passes the information on to the franchisee, which is passed seamlessly through the app. The franchisee goes through it, verifies it, and then it is sent to an onboarding team. Our onboarding team is the final gate, which says yes or no. If it's a yes, all the information of that seller's land is then available on our cloud for all our buyers to see. From a buyer's perspective, a buyer sitting in any part of the country, if he wants land in any part of the country, he will be able to say, I want land in a specific village. He will be able to say, I want land which is specific for a certain crop. He will say, I want land which is a certain size. I want certain tube wells. So the buyer has several filters. Once he puts that search with the filters, our application, our software will give him the very lands that he is seeking for. So the buyer now doesn't have to go around that village or around that district or around that area to search for land. He is given land specific to his needs, specific to his budget, sitting in his seat. So when a buyer shortlists his land, he then asks for a site visit. He has to go to the app, see how many site visit packages he wants, 5, 10, 15, or whatever the amount it says, and he says, and it's very cheap to do that site visit. The reason we take a little bit of money because we only want serious buyers, like we want serious sellers. So the buyer says he wants 5 site visits. Those site visits are then tied up with the franchisee. On our site itself, he fixes a time for that site visit. Then he goes to the site and he meets the seller. That's when the last minute negotiation takes place, if any, if the seller wants to do it. That's when the physical verification of document, the physical verification of the agricultural land takes place. And hopefully, if everything falls into place, then they start moving towards a deal. When they move towards a deal, it is the franchisee who handholds the buyer as well as the seller in closing the deal. He will show the agreements, he will take them to the seal, he will get the advance from the buyer to the seller, and finally, he will go to the tehsil and close the deal. So the Cloudfarm app is also really beneficial for large industries, food processing plants, and anybody that has some stake in agriculture. Could be warehousing, could be whatever. What has happened at the moment is the industry goes to the local level, same goes to brokers, and then the brokers don't know whether they hide prices or not. In the Cloudfarm app, sitting at an office in Bombay or at a fancy office in Delhi, the industry can pinpoint exactly where the land is available. They can pinpoint exactly the price that they want to land at. So with all this information available and the transparency, it's going to become significantly easier for the industry to buy the land. Till today, a seller who wants to sell his land has very limited buyers because that seller does not have a platform to tell people that he wants to sell his land. So at the moment, a seller only tells 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Maybe he tells 1 or 2 brokers, and those brokers are also very unorganized. The brokers themselves don't know who the potential buyer is. Once a seller uploads his lands onto our platform, we are able to market this to not only his village, we are able to market it to at least 400 or 500 villages around him. We are able to market it to towns. We are also able to market to industry. We are able to market it to food processing plants. So our software has a very, very deep and a very horizontal reach at the same time. And we are able to give the seller a huge amount, a very, very vast amount of buyers to come and buy his land. Well, our franchisee is really the epicenter of our entire activity in that area. So a franchisee's main role initially is to go village to village and convince people to put up their land on our app. They should inform people, apprise people that by putting their lands on our app, they will get many more buyers or lessors, and obviously then that means they will get a better price. While he's doing that, the franchisee has to make sure that all the information is accurately filled. All the information that we ask on the app, size of the land, the soil, the fencing, the tube wells, and all the things that I've mentioned need to be there. The franchisee, most importantly, has to go and verify the documents. He needs to see that the land is good, that the title is good, because we want our buyers to know that this is a genuine platform. The franchisee's next role is to keep looking at his dashboard. In his dashboard, he will be able to see all the activity in his area. He'll be able to see the buyers who are keen. He will be able to see the activities between the buyer and the seller. And whenever he sees that there's a good chance that there's a deal that's going to happen, there are site visits that are planned, he needs to then jump and contact the buyer and take him for a site visit. After he does the site visit, he needs to make sure that everything is transparently done between the buyer and the seller. After that is done, then he needs to do the documentation process, do the agreements, the initial agreements, the advances, and so on and so forth. And finally, help the buyer and the seller go to their respective tehsils and close the deal. The franchisee is now sitting on 20 villages, which means 50,000 to 100,000 acres of land. He is going to become the master franchisee of the area. So typically in 20 villages, there would be, let's say, over 70, 80 brokers. All that business will go to a franchisee because a franchisee now has a power. He's got the power of the app that we have built. He's got the power of the buyers that we're going to bring to him. He's got the power of the sellers that he brings to the app. So he benefits hugely with 20 villages which are going to be under his territory. And I believe a franchisee should, in the first year itself, make 25 to 30 lakhs. Going forward in the third and fourth year, I don't think it is a big ask if a franchisee makes at least 1 crore of revenue for himself. And we'll be very happy when that day comes. I've always believed that any business that I start, I need to disrupt that industry. If I don't disrupt the industry, then that business is really nothing but a commodity business. As a group, we have several business interests in several industries. One of them is aviation. In aviation, one of the companies we have is in the air charter business, where we have business jets and helicopters which fly businessmen around the country. We have another business in aviation where we are distributors of aircraft spare parts, and we also do a lot of maintenance of aircraft components. In our real estate side, we are building a township in Himachal, and we're identifying other townships in other parts of the country where we can disrupt the market. On the e-commerce side, we have invested in other e-commerce ventures related to agriculture, and now are investing very heavily into Cloudfarms because I feel this is a huge opportunity and will disrupt the real estate of agriculture farms in India. Well, I have enough experience in life now to start several ventures. I have not been stuck to one venture. I've started several ventures and 90% of them are highly successful. Well, to be successful, ideas are important. Several people, hundreds of people have the greatest ideas, but execution is key. We have executed several businesses in the last 25 years. We have brought them up from zero, just an idea, and taken them to a very, very high level. It could be in aviation, it could be in real estate, it could be in e-commerce, it could be in farming. So with this entire plethora of experience that we have and the knowledge that we have, especially in execution, I think we are absolutely unstoppable. And having the first mover's advantage always works in our favor. Well, we have been working on this technology for over a year and a half. We have spent a lot of time before we launched this app. A lot of thought has gone behind it. And me being a farmer myself, understands the pain and understands how this entire thing is working and understand how it should be working. And we put all that into technology. We have built in a lot of AI, we have built in a lot of machine learning, and going forward, I think we are going to be absolutely untouchable. And I look forward to all the buyers and all the sellers and all the franchisees who are going to be using the app. They're going to really benefit from this. Also, one of the reasons that we are not able to produce at the level of other first world countries is because our farmer is quite uneducated. If we are able to bring in the youth of India who are educated in the greatest universities of India, many of them want to be farmers, but they can't be farmers because they don't even know how to start buying the land. If we can bring in the youth of India into farmlands of India, they work collectively with the farmers, I think the Prime Minister's dream of doubling farm income in 5 years is not too far.